Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Liz Farrell, Artistic Director of Painting, Drawing, and Printmaking in our Artist in Residence program. So welcome to our Visiting Artist Lecture, and I would like to welcome our virtual participants watching tonight as well. Tonight we'll be hearing from artist Masako Miki, here in partnership with the Aspen Art Fair. So before we begin, could you please silence your cell phones? And for our land acknowledgement, Anderson Ranch acknowledges that our campus resides on the traditional ancestral territory of the Ute people, who've called the Roaring Fork Valley and beyond home for over 800 years. Through our mission to promote a wide range of arts, cultures, and voices, we commit to partner with and honor the indigenous ancestors and residents of the sacred land where we learn, work, and create. As a multimedia artist, Masako Miki navigates diverse mediums, including textile sculpture, watercolor, and outdoor public installations to explore the intersection of mythology, folklore, and contemporary social issues. Miki has exhibited her immersive felt sculptural installations and watercolor works on paper in the US and internationally. She's exhibited at institutions including Berkeley Art Museum and the Pacific Film Archive and the DeYoung Museum. She's currently working on Mina and Natoma Street Corridor Project with SF MoMA and SFAC, designing functional sculptures. Miki is a native of Japan and currently is based in Berkeley, California. She's represented by Ryan Lee Gallery in New York and Jessica Silverman Gallery in San Francisco. So please join me in welcoming Masako Miki.
Okay. Do this. Okay. Hello? Can you hear me okay? Okay, great. Thank you, Liz, for the introductions. I will see for everything so far. I just wanted to say thank you to the Anderson Ranch Center and also the Aspen Fair to invite me for this amazing residency program. And also as a visiting lecturer, I get to show my work in this lecture context. So thank you so much. And then Derek from Ryan Lee, New York, and then Haki from Jessica Silverman Gallery. I'm just so blessed with this amazing galleries who just support me so much. So thank you for coming. Thank you. And then some of the collectors here, thank you for coming. Really appreciate this opportunity. Thank you. Okay, so I prepared the lectures and let me see. I'm also was very sick yesterday for the altitude sickness, and I definitely underestimate that how bad it can be. So I had a rescue team came and gave me the IV in my room. And so if I just kind of started to lose a little bit, I'm just trying to catch my thoughts. So I apologize in advance if that don't make sense. Sorry. And I'm coming from the sea level, so I think it's quite different. So anyway, okay, so I'm just gonna start my lecture here. So I thought maybe it's good to show a little bit of where I'm coming from. Sometimes I did this talk with the Guggenheim curators at the time, and she said that sometimes your background just really kind of connects everything. And I don't know how much it does here, but I wanted to share a little bit. So I'm a native of Japan. I'm from Osaka area, which is that red dot here. And it says Sakai is the city, and it's a port town. It's a kind of suburb now, but in a history, it was a very, very important port town because everything came from this port. In our history. So we're very famous for tea master. If you're familiar with the tea ceremony, the Senno Rikyu is the master of the tea. And he was from this area, and that's his house. by the way, he's the first person who said the black ceramic is the best. So black is the new white, because before that, all the porcelain from China was considered the best, the most valuable ceramic. But then he came with this very rough sort of look of this black ceramic, and he said that's the most valuable teacup. Anyway, so he's from there, and then I grew up with a lot of ancient loom in this town, because we have a lot of looms with a long history. And then also the very, very fun and kind of loud city that is in my town. So, and this is the urushi lacquer. My grandfather was the urushi lacquer artist. And I just vaguely remember, because he passed away when I was maybe 7. But I remember him working with the lacquer, and his hands were all so brittle. But that's just, I have that memory about that. And so that was my father's side, my dad's dad. And this is my mom's dad's. This isn't what he made, because I don't have a pictures, but he was known for this miniature house craftsman in a town. So in his house, this is what he was working on. He has this marquette in this entrance that always making like a little shoji screen and little peoples and like a bike and stuff like that. So this is, I remember seeing this as I was growing up. And this is my dad. So my dad was, he was born in 1943, so before the World War II ended it. So in his generation, this is like a first baby boomer generation. And so he became, it was very common for people to become apprentices of like shops and places. They didn't go necessarily to higher education, because at the time, Japan, it was just, no one had anything, and it was so poor. So he became apprentice of this furniture company when he was maybe 13. And he was working with this company, and mainly the company had those Polona tree dresser. This is very traditional wedding dresser. It cost literally like $500,000. This is what the bride's supposed to give it to the groom family. And it's all handmade craftsman, but my dad was able to do this metal work, and but he ended up a salesperson. And then the company he worked on, one of the first company who started to import the mid-century furnitures. So I feel like my family has a little bit of this somewhat like art-related background. They're not necessarily an artist, but in the field. And I think my signature work is the felt pieces, felt sculptures, and it all kind of started from here. They're very small. Those are like jewelry gold pins I used. So they're about 3 to 8 inches tall. It's very, very small. And so you can see that these kind of became like a big series. And they're shapeshifters. And it's from Japanese folklore. I'll explain more. And these are miniature pieces, so the way I displayed it was in little shelves, and then they were just sitting on little wood shelves. I think I was working more sort of realistic representation of the drawing before I started doing this series. And I took this wool needle felting workshop, and I just really loved it. And I wasn't thinking about this is gonna become my major medium, but I just really enjoyed it. So I started to making like the army of these pieces, and then and then it's just kind of like what I am here. So these are minis. So and then I had the opportunity for the Matrix exhibition. It's in the Berkeley Art Museum. It's part of UC Berkeley, and then the Matrix exhibition is catered to only the contemporary artists. And I was able to do this big installation piece. So it was a quite jump from like 3 inches tall to like, this is about like a 12 feet high. I wasn't quite sure what I was doing, to be honest. But, you know, it's kind of good, like as an artist, once something started, you're just gonna wing it, you know? And then that's how I did it. I had a plan, which I didn't know if it was gonna work out, but it turned out it worked out really great. So, so individual pieces, these are a character, shape-shifting character from mainly Japanese folklore. And I take existing shapeshifter character from chronicles and literature. I also invent them too. And they're hanging out in this playground. So the one on the left is it's the umbrella ghost. The one right by the umbrella ghost is the mirror shapeshifter. So each one has a particular characteristic to it. The big piece is the prayer bees. This is the very well-known characters in Japanese folklore. It's very, it's like a sort of like a leadership. It has the most rational thought, and then that character leads the crowd. That triangle piece is the back scratcher. It's called animated back scratchers, and I think you've seen like a Chinese, like the bamboo stick that scratch your back. So that's the giant version of that. So I think you might think like, what is shapeshifters? And I don't mean to be so didactic here, but just to kind of give a little bit of context so that it's called yokai in Japanese, and in English it's shapeshifters. And these are, to me, it's a very loaded, enriched character. They're spirits, it can be ghosts. They're very, they're non-binary characters. They're sacred, they're also secular, they're free. That's in their nature, so they synthesize these dichotomies, you know, so the things that in our life that we tend to separate and you can't have any kind of agreement, but these characters embrace that that sort of multi sort of characteristic. They can be anything they want. So I found them very, very inspiring. And these characters, as mundane as it can be, it's a quite strong characters. And in Japanese folklore, they've been appearing from the very beginning, the creationism story in Japan. And it was more popular like in 1400s when the drawing and painting and the literature came out, so it became more popular in a secular way. And Sekian Toriyama is a very well-known artist in Edo period. He made his chronicle. He actually, it's sort of like a card. He made each character with the explanations. And I just think these drawings are really fascinating. So the one on the left is the shapeshifter of the iron pot. And the one on the right is it's like a sitar. It's a musical instrument in animated form. And they're all considered as the shapeshifters. So this is like my version of this. So this is the sandal shapeshifters, and I was thinking about the shape. And this is the abstract process of how I'm making them so that it becomes unique in my mind. This is the mirror. The mirror being symmetrical, I just ended up having this bean shape, like a jelly bean shape. And I like the process because nothing is written for me. I'm just kind of reacting to the object and then see how it goes. And I really enjoyed the process that the felt just takes to wherever it goes. And then I had this is the Radical Hope installation. The window installation was the Ryan Lee in New York, and they're right by the High Line. So the window was really catered to show like wider audience, and it was really fun to do. So that's inside. And these are some of the new felt pieces I've done. I started to mix some colors of the felt. This is the benevolent observer. It's an idea about the trees and nature being the witness of everything that has happened in this universe and everything that the human has done, good and bad. So they always have eyes. Some details. And this is so this is a kind of a unique project I've done. So I just finished this window project in Hermes in Ginza in Tokyo. It just came down a few weeks ago, and it was a lot of, it took about a year doing this project, and I think it came out really good. It's a really special project, and I thought I could share some, and I have some videos that I can share too. It's a horse, the Elmis horse. I asked him, like, is it okay that I have so many horses? And like, we love horses. So it's like, okay. So, and this is the saddle shapeshifter. And the idea was really about, this is the 100 years anniversary of Hermes. And there was a spirit of the fable. That's the name of the street of the original Hermes stores in Paris. And that was the theme, and I worked on the theme. So the way I responded was their theme and my belief about creative process. It's really just about sort of idea about the magic, what artists can bring, and then the arts and craftsmen, like what we can do with the materials. And the one thing I was very much intrigued by their company was that they act like an art gallery. They don't act like a merchandise or retailers. They only make product when they have the right materials. And that the integrity, and also it's just very tedious, and they don't mind spending time on tiny little pieces and areas, which I felt it was very nice to see. So that's why I was able to collaborate with them. So this is the atelier scene where all this merchandises and then the objects are actually working together. So just wanted to show some pieces. And it was almost like a set design, like I had a lot of details. Like that thread was actually made with the wire, and we wrapped the thread with the wire. But like just the idea about like which blue, what thickness, all this conversation. I had so many FedEx overshipment of the samples, and it was really fun. So I made the boots. And then we put the little lights there. I want to make sure I go over everything. So another shapeshifter of the apple. It's the traveling horse in a universe. These are the 16 windows. They call it Tiffany windows, and then you're supposed to have like a story. It was so much work. It was one of the most painful projects I've ever done, actually. Was the Japanese people, their work ethics, and then the Paris Hermes work ethics. Oh my gosh, it was crazy how it has to be perfect, which I like that idea, but that was hard. Anyway, so these are small windows. Okay, so I can talk, I'm not here for the Miss Ambassador, but it was a fun project, so I wanted, and it was just very recent, so, and this one, I just realized that I was speaking in Japanese. That's why I think it was boring, so, with the sound, so I'm just gonna do the image. Yeah. So, yeah, it was really fun doing this because it's, again, and later on I'll show my public art project too. It becomes like a different parties collaboration, and it's a blessing, but at the same time, it's a lot of challenges. So this was definitely one of the challenging projects, just to really, like, every party is happy about how that came out. But amount of the details we worked on, this was really, really insane. We had the exact same rehearsal set in a different place, and then we set it up, and then the installer team measure everything from the 3 points, from the front, from the side, from the ceiling, and they make these notes about 20 inches from the left, 12 inches from the bottom. And then once we make it, you know, when you look at it, of course, we have to do some adjustment so that there's like 4 in the morning, the installer is making 2 millimeters to the right, like 1 millimeters to the bottom. And they were literally doing that. And I was just exhausted. And I designed everything, the floor to the checkerboard of the floor. I made it asymmetrical. The designs of the wall, that was for my painting. It's the bird wearing the Elmer's gloves. And they made that wheel. And that, like, sort of like waving the scarves are like so difficult too, and it's so much fish lines going around. And but they just, I don't know how many times they did it. They redid it. Do you have any questions on this by any chance? Yeah, so the eyes should be the sort of a sense of rationale when everything is very sensuous and spontaneous in a studio.
Did they give you certain pieces that of theirs that
The display.
and then you had to break it up and stuff?
They gave me like a 4 seasons list of materials. They have like a jacket and then the suitcase, and it was so beautiful, and the bag. One of the small bags, it's a space bag. I think it was like a $40,000. And it just doesn't look like one, but it was like, okay, put it there. I like the color. You know, so we definitely selected, curated together, yeah. Mainly by the colors. This one? This is only for Ginza store. So the Hermes has the 5 mezzanine, which is New York, Ginza, Paris, and Seoul, and Hong Kong. These are that means the maison owns the entire building. And that building is designed by Renzo Piano. It's a really beautiful building. It's gorgeous, right? It's supposed to be the lantern for the nighttime in the city. And the Ginza, the mezzanine does collaboration with the artists outside. Every other, like Louis Vuittons and everything else, they have a in-house window designer, but they work with the other artists, not necessarily like an artist, like an architect or like an industrial designer. This is very, very important for them because it started as a Hermes theater windows in Paris when they just start the shop opened. So it's a very, very important. It's really about communicating with the viewers, and for them it's the product. But it's been a tradition. So that program has been like a 25 years. So, my sculptures are like a characters, right? And then I also make painting. And then the paintings compositions kind of inspired by this traditional painting. It's called Hyaki Yagyo. It's a night parade with the 100 demons. And many of the paintings anonymous, some of the paintings done by very well-known artists. But this is sort of, it's always in a scroll format. And then these are very traditional night parade painting. And I just really love these paintings because it's basically the night procession of these forgotten characters. So they're protest march, basically. And the shapeshifters are usually, it can take in different form. It can be animal, it can also be a man-made object. That's why I have a lot of bowls and like sake bottles and then iron pots and any kind of man-made tool has a spirit to it. And so these are the parade of these characters who's been actually forgotten and thrown away by humans, so they're angry. And so the context is that they go out at nighttime and they're voicing their existence. And I really find uncanny like these ideas about these forgotten characters trying to voice themselves that they're still there. And I really wonder about, I was talking to earlier, why this concept is really intriguing. And that I study about mythologies and ethnologies, and I'm really curious why we made up these characters, like why we have to invent these stories and fictions and narratives. And I've been really, really thinking about it. Why is it important, and why is it so relative to now? And I think so. This is my version of the night parade, and they're doing their own thing, but they're doing things together. So I think it's very important to have this uplifting narrative when it's dark. I also think that narrative fictions and folklore and mythology actually becomes our lives. I think myth becomes our life and reality. In the very beginning of time, we live with the myth, we live with the folklores. We talk about universe and the earth and nature with God and deities. And it's just how we perceive our realities. It helps us to explain what it was when we don't have a scientific answers. And I think that the narrative truly, and in my opinions, it really creates our subjective reality. The life and society that we live now is really coming from the narratives that we built. We built the idea about God. We built the idea about the capitalism. Making money is good, and that's the narrative that we wrote and we decided to believe. And then the religions, philosophy. I think everything that we human imagined and then wrote it down as a story, and then this actually becomes the reality. And there's so much realities from the myth that fiction that we created it, which I think it's quite fascinating because there's so much great things happen from the fictions and our imagination, art and science, everything around us. But we also have, this best instinct, at the same time, the worst prejudice that we created it. And then that when it becomes the political agenda and policies, it becomes the reality. The war is a great example, with this ideal fictions. And then they're not necessarily true, but we chose to believe it, and it becomes the reality. So, in America, I think the fiction justified the slavery, and also destroyed these native societies. But also we have this incredible ideas about moving forward, right? And in Japan, this the great example in World War II, we have this personified sort of God existence in an emperor and then the imperial army. And then that was the idea. They believe that they're divine. They're not, but but they believe the story. And then, there's a history to it. So I found very interesting. It's even like you have to make it in a story if you wanted to make that happen. So to me, it's a very interesting process to now then what kind of narrative and fictions and story has to be filled in these societies. Because I think we are capable of keeping and feeling this empathy to each other, but at the same time, it's very easy to go into the other way that really emphasizes our greed and then, again, lack of empathy. And when that happens, it's disastrous. So for me, my job as an artist, I feel like I want to fill the place where I live in the community with this enchanted, powerful, charged, free characters. They're free and they're at the most free place, and they're not. So my work is really against this strict dualism. They're against about that. So, and each one of them are characters, and you see these guys a lot in my painting. He's an instigator. In the real folklore, he's actually the golden stick, and then he's really angry being thrown away, and he starts jumping on the bees, the prayer bees. That's why in my painting, the bees are all scattered. And this is the universe that I think universe seems more, it's more bigger, and then seems more important, but they're equally important as the little ball and then little rock. And this is a character. It's actually the straw house, and they're trying to take care of everybody, so they're sharing rice ball. And this is the night versions, the blue and the black painting. Again, so he's kind of dancing in this one. And I also do the metal work. So this is the conceptual drawing that I did, and I wanted to show at least 10 minutes. 5 minutes, okay. So this is the, I also been very fortunate to do the public art project. So this was in the Uber headquarters in San Francisco, now a different company occupied, but it was a very, very, very big budget and project, and it was my first time doing the public art project, and I learned a lot. So I made everything in the bronze. This is 20 feet tall in bronze. It's painted with the urethane, so the car paint. It's called Holographic Entity, reminding of the universe. It's the whole title of the installations. I made a giant moon. This is another character. It's the continuous eyes that they live around yourself, and the walls, they're eyes, so they're always listening you. The lips. This is a very female ghost, which is very powerful. It's really nice to, I get sometimes email from people that, my mother's in a wheelchairs, but this is the only park that she wants to go. So she's, I get something like that. Or like the person who I take extra 5 minutes so I can pass this park on the way to the work. And so it's very nice to hear something like that. And I feel really interesting because, these are like forgotten, thrown away characters, but then it's in bronze and monumental size, and I wonder about when we talk about cave paintings and, when this earth is gone, I wonder what will be remained. And if they find something, a little bit of the bronze pieces, and maybe we will research about like what was this character, and what these people believe in like a 2015 or 2020, and I'm kind of visualizing what will be remain in these bronze pieces, and I'm very proud as a woman artist that I got to do this like a big project. Another big project I did in Shenzhen in China. This was big. It's 13 feet high. It's all related to the Chinese shapeshifters. I just love the folklore and different cultures, like in a European folklore, Americans and Japanese and all Asian, so specific. That was very big. It's 23 feet. That's pretty big. Peach is peach is like an apple in the Christian traditions. Peach seduce people to eat. And then the peach comes in a Japanese creationism story too, which actually comes from Chinese too. And this is a project that I'm doing right now. I'm designing the furniture, functional furniture in San Francisco, collaborating with SF MoMA and then the San Francisco Art Commissions. It's by MoMA, between SF MoMA, Yuba Buena, and that 2 streets. I'm doing the Mina Street. Oh, I think it's got mixed up. Anyway, this is another project this is the pieces I showed was bronze, and this is aluminum. The idea is the sea of tree. Really, the idea about some of the big sea of the tree, like a big the forest. Your compass doesn't work, and you have to really navigate by yourself. And so I was emulating the idea about when you have to take charge and then decide, the direction that you have to go. With the budget, I could only make 3. Oh, this is a picture from Foundry. This is my LA Foundry. Aluminum is it's less expensive than bronze, but it's also you can do a lot of things with the aluminum. And I'm very happy about the result. It's very difficult to make that smooth and metal and symmetrical. So this is my furniture design, and this is part of it's the large bench I'm making about 9 feet. And the area in San Francisco where I'm installing this, it was a home for the Filipino community. That's when they immigrated, this is where they made them as a home. So I wanted to really dedicate it to the story, to the community. And I studied the folklore and the mythology. So this is based on the Mindanao Island, the Philippine creationism story, how the land actually became Philippine. So there's debris in the sky. They were fighting to each other, and then they got kind of touched each other and scattered, and then they all kind of fell onto the sea. And then the first bird landed on, and that's where the beginning of the Philippine Islands. So this is the story, and I'm using the GFRC concrete, and then making terrazzo. I'm not making a bronze one, they picked the concrete one. And ballers. Oh, and this is the last piece. I'm making this new bronze pieces. This is my market, so it's in the process now of making with the bronze, but these are the cats and the fox and the mushroom. So they all come from my painting. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Masako. If you have a question,
you.
please just raise your hand, and I will be happy to bring the microphone by.
First of all, thank you so much at letting us all into your world. It was interesting when I was looking at your white aluminum pieces. They reminded me a lot of Ruth Azawa's work.
Oh, yeah, right.
And is there something about that formation that, what was the inspiration there?
Yeah, I think I definitely see that. I wasn't definitely thinking about her, although she's one of my favorite artists. It was more about the tree motif that I was sketching and thinking about how it has to be done with the metal materials. I did a little sketches, and then it kind of evolved in this sort of shape of like what I just ended up with. So I wasn't necessarily thinking about her, but it was more about the stylization of the trees. And ideally, I wanted to have a lot of those so it looks like a forest. Yes, I wanted to have people walk around that, so that feels like you're in a forest. But again, I'm not interested in making this realistic representation in the sculptures. As you can see, all my sculptures are very abstract and stylized, which to me it's a very important concept because when it's abstracted, it's not quite decided, quite done. It shows this room to evolve. And I think it's a really interesting state that you want it to be in my opinion. So you're flexible, you're not stuck with one places. And so I think that was the shape that I felt like it still looks like a tree, but not quite a tree. Yeah. Thank you.
What a beautiful presentation. I apologize I got here late, but I love Japanese art.
Oh, thank you.
Did you ever meet Toko Shinoda?
I don't think so.
She's a calligrapher artist that she died, I guess, just in 2021. I have some of her work.
I see. I haven't. I'll look it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm curious about in folklore, the animism that you talk about in the shapeshifters, and they're coming out at night and not wanting to be thrown away. How does that concept play into both your life and your work? Is it a factor when you think about a piece that you may not be satisfied with and throwing it away?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
It's kind of a vague question, but you talked about the animism and the folkloric characters who come out at night because they haven't wanted to be thrown away, right? So in your personal life or in your artistic life, does that concept play a role in your feelings towards either throwing things away or creating a piece that is not satisfactory to you.
I see, I see. I don't throw away a lot of stuff, I think. I'm definitely a hoarder side in my studio, because sometimes that idea, I feel like as an artist, you know, I have this kind of sacred sketchbook. That's why I don't judge anything. No judgment when I work on a sketchbook. And then it almost predicts my future. And then sometimes I make something and I'm not quite ready yet. So sometimes that idea doesn't get excites me, but 2 years later I look at it, I want to make this one, you know. So I feel like I have a lot of pieces that I started it, but I'm still somewhere in my, you know, the flat file drawers and the sculptures, and I still have them. So I don't throw it away. And not trying to justify what I use as a concept. I just naturally, I just feel like there's something that's there. So I don't throw away a lot of stuff. That's why I need a new studio. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much,
Thank
Masako.
you.
And we are going to be doing a studio visit following this. So if you have more questions, we'll have the opportunity to talk more.
Okay.
And thank you so
Great.
much.
Yeah, thank you.
Safe.